Alright everybody, welcome back. It is July 24th, 2018, 6:36 p.m. And as always, we will start with current temperatures. Now, one area to focus on clearly, which was in the thumbnail, is right down here in Southern California, New Mexico, and then going up into the southwest corner of Colorado and the southeast corner of Utah. You can see we are well into the hundreds. This 114 reading actually peaked at 120 to 121, which is a pretty ridiculous amount of heat, especially with what's going on around the country as a whole. Now we are going to touch on the Atlantic Ocean really quick. Currently, a little bit to the north, Yosemiti National Park will be closed on Friday due to a wildfire. So a lot of this heat mixed with the winds are causing these fires to spread quickly. But ironically enough, just to the east of that in Colorado, we are dealing with some pretty substantial flooding. Now, before we get to that, we're going to check out our county chart. You can clearly see here these are all heat warnings. And then you see that green there, flood watch. So we have 120-degree temperatures, give or take, in the south, to the south of California, in Arizona and New Mexico. And then you move up into the areas of Nevada, we have flood watches. Now, Colorado is also being affected by this, but then we have, so flood watches in Nevada. Then to the north of that, we have wildfires going on that are closing Yosemite National Park. So it's like these different layers of crazy weather going on. And then, of course, along with that, we have the East Coast just completely being saturated non-stop, which is actually a little bit of a changed forecast as of now. It's actually being extended. If you check out this chart actually extends from today into the 30th as far as rainfall. So this is a semi-long-term chart to check out. But once again, these oranges, these reds, and these purples, all you do is match them to the chart here, and we're seeing 4, 5, 6, and even some places 7 inches of rain over the next 5 days, continuing on the East Coast. Some of that in Pennsylvania and New York. A lot of it looks like it's out in the Atlantic Ocean, but not before clipping North Carolina. Now, there are some very extreme flood watches going on in the outer banks of North Carolina. We just got to wait and see if that's going to affect areas like Chesapeake Bay, based on that high pressure that's going on in the Atlantic Ocean that's pressing all this against the East Coast like we spoke about this morning. With that said, this is a more localized current rainfall rate. And I want you to check something out here. We have a lot of blues and a lot of greens. This is going on right now as we speak. We're in that 1 to about 3.5 inch mark for a lot of these coastal states right here. This takes place between now and tomorrow, or I'm sorry, this took place between yesterday and today. So this was rain that has fallen and is continued to falling right now. And then check out this upper western area of New York here. You match that with this pink color. That is 16 inches of rain. Now, I don't know if some of that can register to some of you guys, but 16 inches of rain is you're pushing 2 feet. Now, with that said, I'm not sure why they're specifically talking about Colorado flooding when there's certainly going to be a lot of significant flooding in this area of New York. And then you can even push that into Vermont and New Hampshire, even if this decides to keep riding up in towards the Maine area. So a little bit of a change going on with these numbers of inches of rain. This is just a quick picture of what's going on in Colorado right now. This was yesterday, and we can actually look at this forming. Once this chart loads, we're going to back up here. We did look at this morning, but we have a little more info left over. You could see right here, this was the beginning of it yesterday. So this was a very big amount of rain. This was also while the Gulf moisture was being pulled up and then just straight up the East Coast. Again, based on that high pressure, you can almost see just blank area here. That is because there's a high pressure bubble, which we call the Bermuda Atlantic pressure, that keeps everything along the coast, and it also keeps our hurricanes south into the islands before they are pushed up or they are forced into the Gulf. We are also going to be talking about that too, because the Atlantic Ocean is clearly firing up on schedule as we enter August and September, which are our peak months, which you could see right here on this chart. May, June 20th to July 10th, and then July 10th to August 1st, we have about a mediocre chance, which is where we went through A through C, and now we are waiting on our next hurricane name, which would be Debbie. Now, it makes sense because we are approaching August 1st to August 20th, which is where we get a pretty big rise in the chances of hurricanes and tropical storms. This is why we started seeing hurricanes like Hurricane Harvey, and then 10 straight storms after that into September, 10 in a row. Clearly September is our peak month for Atlantic hurricanes, so we are actually just getting started, and I have some data to support that. So for any of you that want to check out this chart, this is www.nhc.noaa.gov/climo/images/peakofseason.gfs. Or GIF, rather. I will put this in the description box so those of you that don't know this yet can go check this out. Now, moving on, again, this is the localized rain as of right now. Again, this 16-inch pink area right here is very surprising to me. That's going to be interesting to follow. Again, here's the Colorado picture. We already went through the movements of our rain rate, so you could see how this was the first hit in Colorado. That ended up moving west, and you can clearly see all the moisture still moving up into the East Coast. Some of it is coming from the Gulf. You'll see how it starts to make a turn. It starts to want to whip up through Florida and then up the East Coast. And then you see these spotty storms again pushing over those Colorado states, and I believe that is what is going to add to the flooding that's already there. So a dangerous situation in Colorado. Then just to the southwest of it, we have record-breaking high temperatures, 120 degrees. That's just completely insane. And then again, just like a sandwich, we have flooding going on in the middle, and then right above it, a major fire going on in Yosemite National Park, which will be closed tomorrow. So a lot going on. Now, let's move on to the Atlantic Ocean and what to expect in the near future. Now, this continent right here is Africa. This would be the west coast. This is the area we watch for storms to come off and then accumulate, and then they ride that warm water belt all the way towards the Leeward Islands in the U.S. And you can start to see that a lot of very significant storms are starting to follow this line right across the upper central part of Africa. Now, these storms are going to start hitting the ocean, and they're going to start accumulating, and then they're going to start turning into tropical depressions. Now, this is almost a guarantee. This happens every year. Now, it depends on whether those tropical storms have enough warm water and time to turn into hurricanes to get to the U.S. But nonetheless, this is very seasonal. You don't see this all the time. These are very significant storms, and once they get out into the ocean, they have fuel. So they begin to stick together. That's where we get our tropical depressions. Then we begin to get our tropical storms, and then our Category 1 hurricanes through number 5. So here it is right here, guys. You can see it with your own eyes. These are the storms that are about to put us into our Atlantic hurricane season watch. Here's another small chart, animated chart showing some of these severe storms coming off of the west coast of Africa. They do turn into clouds around here. There is a chart that is recognizing some of these as almost invests right now. You can see some of these greens and yellows popping up after these storms leave the western side of Africa. And here is that chart here. Now, they do this on a daily basis. They change this every couple hours, but these are the areas of watch as of right now. You can see that the tropical index is very high for around Florida and the Gulf states, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, panhandle of Florida, and Florida itself. And then we move up the east coast where we have Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, eventually Virginia. So these are clearly being recognized based on these storms coming off the west coast of Africa. This chart is good, very good chart to check because they update it frequently. Now, again, another familiar chart we watch just to verify the other charts we are looking at. When you see these dense colors coming off the West African coast and then going through these islands here, that's what you want to watch, and that is why this chart is recognizing them. You see those deep colors, and you match them right here. Those are the exact spots that they are watching, and you can see another dense spot right here, which matches this spot right here. The chart also shows the dense moisture that is being pushed up the East Coast due to this high pressure. You can see the high pressure moving right to left, pressing that moisture against the East Coast. And so a lot of these charts you could just line up and you can see how they match up and how they get their data together. So this is once again called the Mimic chart. All you would have to do is type in Mimic in Google and you will get this chart. So a lot of data pointing to the Atlantic Ocean getting ready to fire up, guys, and it can happen any day now. We could see an invest. In fact, right here, this possibly could be an invest, and that other purple area we just looked at right here could be an invest. Now, don't get me wrong, we could still get hurricanes that form down in this area, but as the season moves on, more and more of our storms come from the west coast of Africa. So once again, we're on letter D. Debbie will be our next named storm, and then so on and so forth. Now, I believe that's all I have for you now. I do want to talk about a few other things in another video coming up. We had a pretty significant earthquake swarm just outside Oregon. In fact, it was 212 kilometers west-southwest of Oregon, which is up in this area right around here. The order of which they happened fairly quickly. We had a 4.3 at 10:42 a.m., a 5.6 at 10:44 with a tsunami warning, and then a 5.2, a 4.9, and a 4.3 that led into the afternoon. So there's a clear wave going on of earthquakes in that area. Just another thing to add to for those of us that research the weather and geography to keep an eye on. So there's a lot going on right now, guys. Let me see, anything else that I can throw at you before I end this video? Yes, Hawaii. Okay, so it almost feels like every day I'm talking about Hawaii and the biggest eruption yet, and we have had yet the biggest eruption yet, a 5.6 registered earthquake, which was an eruption at Kilauea volcano. Fissure number 8 is still flowing lava, heavy amounts of lava, and showing no signs of stopping. So I will continue that in another video. This is the second video of today. I will try to get that out tonight. If not, then obviously tomorrow morning. But I just wanted to update you guys on this. The East Coast, we're not going to get a break at least until the end of Wednesday, possibly even Thursday. It all depends on the speed of the jet stream. Remember, we have that deep U going on in the jet stream. A very unusual time of year for that to happen. That deep U is coming all the way to the panhandle of Florida, and that is also aiding in why this moisture is riding up the East Coast, because it's allowing a gap in this area for the Canadian air to flow down. The jet stream is basically a force field wall, then mixed with the high pressure pressing against the East Coast. That is why all this moisture is staying right here and causing a lot of flooding. So that's where we're at now, guys. I hope you enjoyed the update. If you did, like button, subscribe, whatever you want to do to support the channel is totally up to you. Regardless, I do this on a daily basis. Sometimes I take some breaks. Everyone needs breaks, long work weeks. But that's it for now, guys. I hope you all have a great day, and if we don't talk tonight, we will talk in the morning. Have a great night. Goodbye.